town halls on CNN, Anderson Cooper, 9 p.m. tonight, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and then CNN released this statement. I love this. Listen to this. President Biden is expected to answer questions about his administration's efforts to contain the coronavirus pandemic and jumpstart a troubled economy, said CNN. So Biden, his people know the areas of questioning already. I don't think they know the exact questions, because remember when Donna Brazile did that at CNN? She gave Hillary Clinton questions that were going to be asked. That was a huge scandal. I don't think AT&T and CNN can handle another one of those, but surely Biden knows the areas. Now, here's the 4 questions that I, your humble correspondent, would ask, okay, if I were interviewing Joe Biden. Here we go. First one, Mr. President, isn't equity favoring one group of Americans over another? How is that a unifier? So you remember that President Biden made a big deal in his executive orders about equity, that is the federal government giving things to certain marginalized groups, as he put it, just giving things, and the things come from all of us. So how can you say that you're going to unify the country when you're putting certain groups up for special treatment at the taxpayer expense? It's a legitimate question. It's not nasty. I'd like to hear his explanation for that. Question number 2. Texas, California, and other states are having rolling blackouts because of wind and solar energy failures. Also, gas prices rising quickly, hurting the American worker. How do you explain both of those things, and why do you continue to attack the fossil fuel industry? All right. Again, fact-based, Texas, freezing cold, record-breaking cold, and up to 4 million people in the area, that includes Oklahoma, Louisiana, a few other places, have lost power. Why? The wind turbines froze in some cases. Solar is no good in that kind of weather. And the fossil fuels have been cut back to the extent that they don't have the power. Same thing in the heat wave in California last summer. Didn't have enough power. And then there's Joe Biden wanting to knock out even more of the fossil fuel industry. Now, you could replace it with nuclear, but that's my follow-up question. What about nuclear energy? You put in all of these solar and wind and all of this at the top of the chart, but they can't do the job. So that's another legitimate question. Third question. You have promised almost $4 trillion in new spending on climate change and COVID relief, Mr. President. Are you worried about the exploding debt now approaching $30 trillion? And then I would follow up with what do you think a $30 trillion debt could do to the economy? I'd be shocked if you could answer the question, but it's coming. See, that's not an issue now that people are jazzed about because you can't see it. You can't see it, $30 trillion debt. But once it starts to erode the US dollar, then you're going to be able to see it, because the economy is going to be affected. And finally, the last question for Joe Biden, Mr. President, as a practicing Catholic, you are actively promoting abortion not just in the USA, but worldwide using American taxpayer dollars. Would it be correct for Catholics to criticize you? So this is, I mean, if you talk about a personal philosophy based on theology, Joe Biden goes to church every Sunday. I respect that. He goes to Mass. But he is absolutely contradicting one of the great moral imperatives of the Catholic Church, because the life issue is paramount in the whole theology for Roman Catholics. It's all about life and improving life and saving life. That Biden's on the outside of that. And not only that, but he's forcing me and every other person who doesn't believe in abortion to pay for it. Okay, so those are my 4 questions, right? Do you think Anderson Cooper will come close to asking any of that? Because if he did ask it, he'd be ostracized at CNN. It's not that Cooper's a stupid man. He's not. but he's getting a big paycheck. And he's not going to go against the CNN orthodoxy, which is to make Joe Biden look good. That's what they're in business to do. And make Republicans and Donald Trump and everybody else look bad. That's their whole operation. There's nothing else to it. Somebody tell James Earl Jones. Okay? It's not a news organization. They're in business to promote one side and denigrate the other side. And that's the truth.
Bill O'Reilly is back on TV and only on The First. No Spin News, every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern, only on The First.